It was so funny when we realized we were doomed.
Yeah.
And you told us we were doomed. We played it out anyways.
Yeah.
We were doomed, it turns out. And then at the end, you were like, by the way, there are statistics, and the reason why we played this adventure first is because 98% of people succeed. So, yeah, we're in the top
98 percentile.
Top percentile, baby. Absolutely wonderful. Welcome to Take the Damage podcast by Unfortunate Ones. I'm Sav.
I'm Nix.
Yeah, I'm Graythorn.
Oh, and I got to roll.
Yeah, I was about to say, this is part on you, dog.
Look, we were already in topic. It was just off topic in topic.
We were just we were just rambling to each other about something we should put on the show.
13.
Did we already? No, I don't know if we already did this. Silly, goofy, fun times.
I think Lost Tapes. I think we did
Lost
that.
Tapes is
silly, goofy, fun times. I will say, not that this is a whole line of conversation, I've steered pretty far away from silly, goofy, fun times. I still enjoy silly, goofy, fun times. I have a game currently that's silly, goofy, fun times, and it's a nice palate cleanser. But man, I've delved way deep into the super stretched out RP, trying to make, my players sad through narrative. And
I mean,
like...
I would have guessed that for how you've described a lot of your stuff, especially as of the last few months.
Mm-hmm.
That you're definitely way leaning into the rich storytelling and enjoying an aspect where the players at the table care and they want to be a part of really diving deep into a rich narrative. So silly, goofy, fun times could be inserted in there as part of a humorous.
There's often relief.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you can't help it. I was describing this as someone recently where it's sometimes you critically fail in a situation that because I traditionally in those campaigns, I don't do critically fails where you goofed and you hurt yourself or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I try and keep it in serious tone still. But sometimes, especially in role-playing, you critically fail at a specific moment in time that can't help but be funny.
Yeah.
So there's definitely relief. Also, more lighthearted characters I bring in that are that maybe not comic relief, but relief, lighter tones, things like that. But yeah, not too much silly, goofy, fun times.
I think for a dramatic narrative or for less focused on that kind of narrative and less focused on that kind of DM, I think honestly that those are probably the best times is not in combat, critical failure, especially critical failure, leading to a fun opportunity, a character tripping or a character throwing it so wildly or a character saying something so that just is off or whatever. And that can give you the opportunity of having this is a silly moment that
So if I did it in combat though, it wouldn't be. If I did it in combat in one of my current campaigns, it would be I think it would be an upsetting moment for that player where it's where we're so deeply invested in the story and this bad person has come upon us and we narratively need this to go well. There's extremely serious consequences if it doesn't. And then, you tripped and fall and your face lands in poo-poo. I think they would be genuinely upset if I did that.
Yeah. I mean, I generally, unless it's a very specific campaign where it part of it is that's the point. I think getting really silly, at least my personal opinion, getting really silly during combat with a critical failure is it's really tough. It's really tough to see or put a character through or put a player through. Cause it's man, you slipped and you fell and your sword did you roll your damage. Well, your sword, you cut your own leg and you did this much. It's damn, really? Like, all right, like I guess like you just have to kind of sit there and take it if your DM is like doing that thing, and it if you're not prepared for it, and it's like, ah, man, like I don't know, I'm a pretty skilled sword fighter. I get it happens, you know. There are plenty of opportunities, plenty of like examples you could put up of, you know, somebody who's training to roll to fuck with nunchucks, and they do a move and they hit themselves in the nuts, or they
I'd be upset.
Yeah,
I'd be like, hey man, you know, like I understand that I failed, but like to fail to such a degree that it makes me look foolish would be upsetting to me.
yeah,
So I don't do that to other people. I just consider critical fails as like, I don't care what your modifiers are, you're not succeeding.
yeah,
And I'll put narrative flavor on.
yeah.
You might stumble or something and lose your balance, and you know it takes a moment for you to catch yourself and get back within your guard and blah blah blah. But yeah,
I prefer that method too, where critical failure is just a automatic miss.
Yeah.
Kind of like, I definitely do juice up critical successes. I don't know how much I think I like that in the aspect of like, it gives people like a good like hooray moment. Like to me, it's also silly in terms of like,
yeah,
like it's a little bit more of that like, oh, you're having fun. You're having fun with something that is relatively rare on the dice. You know, it's that 5%, the highest number that's on the dice. Have a little fun with it. And so you have a critical success and you do extra damage. I do like the concept of, I think it would take away from some people's experiences if like critical fail or critical success was just automatic hit and critical fail was just automatic miss. Like without adding that extra little juice to it.
yeah. A lot of games have an extra little juice for the critical success.
You know, and that's an aspect of having fun with the game of like,
yeah,
there is a specific special rule that happens when you
Crit.
are very successful.
I have noticed a bad habit of mine that I should approach DMs about. I mean, it's only been with you guys, but when we play one shots, my mind automatically goes into silly, goofy fun times.
Yeah. Yes.
Like immediately it goes
yeah.
into silly, goofy fun times, whether you've called for it or not, which I should probably be like, oh, do you want to do, what's this one shot? Are we doing something more serious or are we having fun with it?
Yeah, but to me, that's part of like a one shot. I do agree with you. One shots definitely in my mind also tend to be a little bit more, not necessarily silly, but if a one shot is silly, I'm not surprised
At all.
If they're way more fun or a little goofy, like, yeah, it definitely does lean that way. But I think that's part of the context of like this separated because I don't have much experience with random people, knowing your DM, knowing who's DMing the game, and also like, oh, what's this game about?
Yeah.
The game's about like, you know, our one shots with Delta Green, and no part of my mind was any of that going to be silly and goofy.
My
Fun,
second
maybe.
character was a little more casual.
Yeah,
Maybe not silly, goofy fun times, but a little more. My character was a little more casual.
yeah, and there are aspects of it where like you're messing with like eldritch horrors or like
Yeah.
horror things where like it's silly.
Yeah.
It's silly because
It almost self-perpetuates seriousness.
yeah, like it is serious that like your characters will have to roll an insanity check because there is a massive pile of corpses.
Yeah.
You know, that like, oh my God, your characters have to roll to see if they could even withstand the sight of this because it's a real human being. If you saw a giant pile of bodies,
You'd
be like,
slip and doo-doo.
yeah. In my mind personally, like, oh, it's a little silly. Like, this is crazy. Like, this is weird. Like, it's a weird, like, silly story of like.
I felt that way until we saw the creature
Yeah.
when we were playing Delta Green, and then you made me roll a sanity check, and I was like, oh, this is like a horrible thing that, like, yeah, my character wouldn't have seen this and would probably be
Oh, yeah.
horrified by this.
Yeah.
It helped ground me. Having to make sanity checks helped ground me in the seriousness of the game itself.
Yeah. If taking it as a real thing, yeah, it's fucking horrifying, disgusting, terrible. But seeing it as a game, you're like, this is over the top. This is crazy.
Yeah. It's a little extreme.
Yeah. If I was to just walk out of your house right now, and all of a sudden there's just a giant pile of corpses and a giant rotting mass of a human body.
Well, what day is it? You might.
I would be like, hey, I should come here on a different day. This isn't.
Yeah. Don't come here on Tuesdays.
This neighborhood has a fun time.
I do enjoy silly, goofy, fun times. It's a nice palate cleanser. We did that recent one shot with two of our friends that wanted to try D&D for the first time, and they were like, both of them were playing into it. I was almost like the serious relief, but I intentionally not overdone because they wanted it to be silly and goofy and fun time, and having a serious-ish character makes the fact that silly, goofy, fun time things are happening even more funny when there's a character that's like almost like a curmudgeon, you know?
Yeah, there was a player who played his character, the personality based off of Bender from Futurama.
Yeah,
and there was a fight where I threw like big bugs at him, and instead of using any of his weapons, he just got like a stick from the campfire.
Yeah.
And then like stabbed the bug with it. And then because the bug was impaled, he asked if he could use it as a weapon, and then started using the impaled bug as a weapon.
Yeah. Very silly.
Yeah, super fucking ridiculous, but like, yeah.
It was a great time.
I added fire damage. I added regular damage. Like, it was like, yeah, man, cool. I don't care. Like, this is what D&D... And, God, even in that same game, one of the characters, to get attention away from them because they were in a spot they weren't necessarily supposed to be in, just started doing, like, calisthenics or, like yoga or something. They were just doing, like...
I forgot about that.
Like Tai Chi or something.
It was like Tai Chi,
yeah,
I think.
And it was just like...
It was like, oh, why are you in my wine cellar? And it's like, oh, just doing Tai Chi.
Doing Tai Chi out here. Like, just having fun. It was like, all right, yeah, cool. And it was one of those things where, like, I let them roll for, like a persuasion check. They're like, yeah, this is all... And they rolled well. And I was like, this guy's impressed by how well you're holding form, how well you're doing. And, like, yeah, it's so stupid. It's ridiculous. Like, yeah, whatever, man. Like,
I'm the opposite kind of DM. Where, like, I think I've talked about this, maybe this last tapes, I don't know. Where I had it was a serious campaign, very serious things happening, and then I had one player who was a new player, and I wasn't being mean to him or anything. I just wanted them to get the idea of where she was like laughing and joking and whatnot. And I let it go on for like 30 seconds, and then I was like, yeah, give me a perception check. And then they give me a perception check, and I was like, as you're laughing and joking at the silliness of what you guys are doing, you realize the crowd you're in is waiting to see the Lord because their crops are running dry, their families are starving, and all of them are looking at you, and they clearly, it is on their face. You don't even need an insight check, just a perception to realize that it's happening. There's a lot of eyes on you who are pretty not appreciative of you making light of the horrific situation that they're currently in. How do you react? You stop having fun right now.
You fucking quit your giggling. Oh my God. That's hilarious.
It's because they were a new player in a serious campaign, and like we had talked about it being a serious campaign, and they didn't do anything wrong. I didn't like punish them or anything.
No.
But I just wanted to give them an idea of the mood around them.
It's a good way to like.
I wasn't actually being harsh or a dick.
Of course. I mean, it is a thing that like a lot of times a lot of players aren't aware of the actual surroundings because it's difficult sometimes, at least for me, to like really understand the place that you're in.
Yeah.
As a character,
Especially as a new character in an ongoing campaign.
Yeah, we're like I've had it plenty of times where like I have to, or I've been checked of like, are you saying that out loud?
Yeah.
Because like, oh, you don't realize that you're like, yeah, your character's in the middle of a fucking like supermarket. As like people are walking and you're standing in front of a merchant and you're just like, yeah, we're gonna go kill this guy in the back corner and like, you know, make sure that we hide the body. And it's like, are you saying this out loud? Because you're in the middle of a purchase.
Oh, it's even worse than that. Like I've had situations where I'm like, all right, so you guys walk into the lobby of this hotel. It is a very small room. This is a very quaint little hotel that you guys are checking into. So you're in a pretty small room. There's not even really like a dining area in this hotel. There's a tiny little table on the side of the room. This is like a 10 by 10 room. There's a tiny little table on the side with like little snacks and whatnot. And then there is a counter that cuts in like a quarter of this 10 by 10 room. And behind it is the proprietor. And it is nighttime. The sounds of the city have calmed. Most people are sleeping. This is a quiet town. So you don't hear much other than the crickets outside singing their songs. Otherwise, it's relatively quiet. What are you guys doing? Like, all right, so we definitely got to kill the mayor, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, are you saying that out loud? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, in this room? This 10 by 10 room in the dead of night in silence with the proprietor in it? They're like, yeah, but I'm saying it quietly. And I'm like, how quietly could you be saying that? Can the person next to you hear you even? Because like, if you're in a 10 by 10 room and you're whispering, everyone in that room can hear you.
Yeah.
like, how are you having this entire conversation silently? Also, let's say you are. You don't think that looks weird? You don't think it looks weird that you're speaking so hush-hush and quietly for a 10-minute conversation while standing 4 feet away from an NPC who's just watching you?
I mean, it's like the thing that people like seem to forget or don't necessarily think about. It's like a lot of people like to people watch. A lot of people like to people listen. You ever go to like a fast food place and you're sitting waiting in line? You can hear the motherfuckers on the other side of the place having a conversation. Yeah. And if they're talking about something juicy,
you can hear it.
You're like sitting there like,
oh, there's
somebody behind you goes, "Hey, sir, the line's moved up." It's like, "Oh, sorry."
There's a natural thing that we do, which is we learn to tune that out into general rabble. But yeah, you go to a fast food restaurant, if you don't tune it out intentionally and you just start listening around, you could hear everybody's conversation.
Or if you hear somebody say, "Oh yeah, we got to kill the mayor," and I'll be like, "What's happening?
Excuse me?
What's going on in the back corner?" Like, all right.
Yeah. Yeah, is this a crowded bar where everybody's yelling? You could probably have a quiet conversation. That's fine.
If it's a loud scenario, like, but that has to be very specified. Where like, but even then, in a loud scenario, the table right next to you, like they might be able to hear you.
I went to a super tangent. I went for like my 18th birthday or something like that. My mom took me to a restaurant where it is like multi-levels and corners that you have to get into of like blackout material before you're actually in the restaurant. The restaurant was pitch black. All of the servers were blind, so they could get around just fine. And then you're just eating a meal in pure darkness. And it has been the most aware I have ever been of conversations happening around me. Where like I couldn't tune the other people eating in the restaurant out. Like I was just listening to everything everybody was saying.
I don't know if I could do that. That's a trip.
It was a fucking trip. It was super, super weird. But it was cool. But yeah.
Super silly, fun, goofy.
I just, if you're in a quiet room.
Yeah. Just realize that, like, I mean,
just do Tai Chi.
Like, well, yeah. Just realize it is silly to think that, like, your conversations aren't being heard if you're, like,
or can't be
or
heard.
can't be heard. Like people, like, voices are loud and people pick up voices, and like
Yeah.
it's just like,
Well, it's also not me. Like, a lot of people have this impression like DMs are constantly rolling perception checks to try and overhear you. It's like, no, I mean, it really is situational. Like, my group wanted to pull over and have a conversation or whatever, and then at halfway through the conversation, they're like, "Are we in the middle of the road?" And I was like, "Well, I assume you guys pulled off to the side and are not blocking traffic. So no,
Yeah.
you're fine. I'm not trying to catch you guys out."
yeah.
But that mindset comes from that moment where you don't alert your party members that they're in a tiny
Yeah.
little room and there's like a person in this room like 3 feet away from them, and it's like, yes, they heard everything you said. If you don't make them aware of that as like a warning or a hint, then in every other situation they're going to be like, "Oh, DM's out to get me."
I mean, that could be the backlash of like, if you don't have so much fun or so much silliness, is your players. Granted, I don't know how much if it's like, they should appropriately be aware of the things that their characters are doing. But like, yeah, you definitely do create a sense where the characters have to be much more aware of like their surroundings.
Yeah.
Because you as a DM are taking their actions so seriously, where like, as
Yeah.
a player, there's gonna potentially be a lot of that, like, oh, who's around us? Oh, where are we? Like, blah blah blah. Where like they're definitely way more aware of their surroundings, which could be good.
I think that's a good thing though.
Yeah,
Being careful and being
especially depending on what your characters are about to discuss.
Yeah.
If your characters are discussing, like, I don't know, where they're gonna fucking have lunch or whatever, like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. Like, yeah, sure. Like,
Wait, is anybody listening to us? Like, why do you care? You're talking about having lunch.
you're talking about eating your egg salad sandwich. Who
It's
cares?
really not a big deal. All right, here's what I think we should do, because we can't help but stray away from the topic because we love talking about other things and also serious things. I think we should get in the mood for a silly, goofy, fun times by rolling on the loot table a little bit early. And then post loot table, we talk in general about Ace games. Because those are silly, goofy, fun
I had
times.
more stuff I was going to talk about. Also, we have to dive into Gray's opinion about this whole thing.
Yeah, and then also we have to talk about what was it? The offshoot of Rum Watchers?
Yeah.
Domain Observer.
Domain
Domain
Observers
Observers.
needs to be talked about.
There's so many of the one shots you ran, like the Twisted Metal stuff, like
Twisted Metal stuff, super goofy, yeah.
or the Fury Road stuff. Like there's a lot.
There's a lot, but I feel like the loot table will get us in the mood. Hear a little bit from our sponsors, it'll get us a little in the mood for a little silliness.
I believe we have 10, so you can roll the d20 and just half it.
I believe there's music to be played though.
Oh fuck! I forgot I'm responsible for. No, remember. Oh, loot table. Yes, loot table. You listen to.
I don't know why we let you control things.
Oh, it's an awful decision.
You should be the person sitting on the side just talking.
The fact that when we initially set this up and you were like, "Oh yeah, you're going to be in front of the computer," I'm like, "All right, that's a decision."
Yep. I mean, it was just a table layout decision, but like, I regret it.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Come on, everybody.
That was nice.
Let's get
Having a
it.
laugh
Let's
into the song.
go and roll
Yeah.
on the loot table. Let's go and see
Let's
who
do
our
it, everybody.
sponsors will be.
Come on.
This is
let's
the
go.
stark difference
Let's go roll
between
on the loot
this
table.
and system expiration. All right, rolling on the loot table. Let's see who we are today. It's a 6.
I thought you had it up.
I have the ads up. I
Oh
don't have
God.
the list.
We're so organized.
Let's have a
Gilded.
silly fun time.
It was 6, right?
6.
Yeah, gilded.
Gilded.
Oh, you're into this ones already. All right. All right. Today's sponsor is Gilded. Is your inventory dragging you down? Feel like all your efforts delving through dungeons has left you looking a little mundane? Well, let me tell you about Gilded. Gilded offers adventurers from all walks of life a little spice to their dice. Your iron sword not cutting it when prowling through a vampire's den? Gilded has got you covered, or rather, silvered. Or maybe you spend too much time collecting your throwing knives or javelins after a hard-fought battle? Gilded has the answer for you. Gilded provides a wide array of enchantments, accessories, imbuements, and etchings to provide you with all sorts of ways to customize your gear to your needs, be it for utility or aesthetics. Sheathed with your guild crest? Gilded. A chain for your sword so you don't lose it when you drop it? Gilded. A talisman that recalls your favorite throwing weapon back to your hand at the snap of a finger? Gilded. Don't be a mundane adventurer. Get your pack gilded today. In order to break the mold, you gotta glitter with a little gold.
Dog, I want something from Gilded so bad right now. That was so fucking good.
I don't know what we're selling, but I want it.
Dude, that was so fucking good. Holy shit.
What?
So, all right, just to give a little more context, we just let Gray just go with the ad reads.
Make the ads.
And so me and Sav have like no clue about what's coming to us. That was so fucking good.
If you had to compare this business to other businesses on the market, what would you compare it to?
Like, what was the inspiration for that?
Yeah, I was trying not to say it in that way, but yeah, what was the inspiration for that ad?
I don't remember.
Dude, that was so fucking good.
Hey,
I
dog.
want Gilded so bad.
Yeah.
I want to put Gilded into a D&D game.
You know how much? Yeah, that's where I think it suits it the best. You know how much time I've spent collecting throwing darts?
Hey, Gilded.
I want a Gilded salesman. I want to make a D&D world where there is a Gilded branded shop in every city. And there are the barkers or there are the salesmen of Gilded that like travel or something. Like there's the adverts. As somebody's walking down the road on a main road, there's a guy just advertising Gilded. Like this next city and the next city over, there's a Gilded shop.
Gilded.
Dude, it's so good. I want Gilded. It was so good.
Need a chain? Gilded.
I think that was my favorite one that I've written.
It was
glad.
very.
I
It was
feel the
very
read
well
was
written.
a little lackluster, but the writing is good. The writing's
yeah.
good.
Yeah, you know a couple things.
I didn't
but
know
it's
what
great.
it was inspired by, but I loved it.
Oh my god, that was so good. Actually, I can check the doc has it, I think.
Well, I don't know I don't know what the things are. I just know what the little description of what it's supposed to be is.
It was a skins and accessories for tech devices.
Yeah, I get it.
That was the inspiration for it.
Yeah, but why get a case for your iPhone when instead you can get an enchantment for your dagger?
Dude, the fucking silvered thing. The
Yeah.
silvered line,
That was good. I
The
enjoyed
gold
that.
line. Oh my god, that was.
This is just us patting, well, not even ourselves, patting Gray on the back.
I was getting my wallet out. That was crazy.
I've already bought 10 shares in the stock market. Gilded's on the rise.
Usually, at least for me, the couple of minutes after the ad read is me just jerking off the pretend company to be like,
Yeah, instead we've just been jerking Gray off.
Yeah. Because that was so good.
Get over here. Let me give you a little tug.
I love this aspect where like, yeah, just hand it off to Gray.
Yeah, I
and
like
just
not
have
knowing.
Fun. Just do your thing.
I enjoyed not knowing. By the way, all those faces were me hoping you understood that I was trying to ask what it was inspired by without asking what it was inspired by, which clearly I didn't nail.
Well, I still don't know what the original thing was. I just remember the description.
Yeah, that was so good.
That was fun. I mean, I don't know how you would tech.
I mean, it was
Something with gnomes?
accessorizing your gear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're going to accessorize your gear,
I just
use Gilded.
I'm saying that's kind of a hard one to put a fantasy spin on because it's specifically a tech company. So how do you, I don't know, gnomes, tinkerers?
Oh, if you were to come up with your own version of it.
Yeah,
If
if
it
you were
was still-
if you were
it was
to
still
try
going
to
be tech related.
Oh.
yeah, or just if you were trying to have it, which who cares? But if you were trying to have it better recognized as as a fake ad for a real product.
I think you'd have to probably shift it to be a little more focused on artificers, because that's
what I was going to say. Tinkerers are artificers.
Yeah.
Well, I think the company's artificers and they sell to tinkerers. And it's
Yeah,
have
yeah.
you built a small contraption and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
Accessorize it with Gilded.
yeah. Or it would be like the very common items
Yeah.
would be.
But also, and this is the most important thing. It's a fake ad, and it was beautiful. So who cares? Who cares what it's supposed to be?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I say a fake ad only because in this instance, they actually aren't yet our sponsors. So they're not paying us for that. We just really want Gilded to sponsor us. That's what I mean by fake ad, if anybody was wondering what I meant by
we're just
fake ad.
manifesting it.
Yeah. Like, obviously, Gilded, a real company.
Yeah.
And we want to be sponsored by them. So we figured we would run one ad that we created, and then, maybe down the line.
Yeah, this is a spec piece. We're like, hey, this is what our advertisement will be like when you choose to like accept us. Because we know that they're swimming in Electrum. And so like
they're swimming in Electrum. Fucking Electrum. Silly goofy fun times.
See, you don't get that kind of stuff if you don't have fun. You're not willing to have fun.
Let's talk about domain observers.
Now, Gray, how do you feel about fun?
Fucking hate it.
Stupid fun.
Hate fun. Silly goofy fun times is really just, it really is a one-shot thing unless you're running like a campaign that, just kind of has room for it, or you're just a bunch of guys trying to have fun while also rolling dice in a non-serious manner, kind of like how
Lord's Fall.
Yeah, how Lord's Fall, the Saab's first one shot.
Yeah.
And, Nix's first time DMing a one shot for realsies.
Yeah. Oh, the first time DMing, like, for all of you. Well, no, it was like
your first dive into a campaign. It was off the back of a one shot.
It was supposed to be a one shot.
Yeah, it was off the back of a one shot.
Yeah, it was like my second time DMing.
But in any case, very much your intentions were to make us superheroes, and instead it was just silly, goofy fun times the whole time, and also we were villains.
The superhero aspect is what really allows that silly, goofy fun time stuff to roll.
Yeah.
Because you have you have more things you could do, and
yeah,
the consequences you can deal with, and
it's also like the ideas that you guys would try to come up with and like try to execute is one of them. Like literally the last thing that we played out, or the last like potential scenario that we were working with, was you guys trying to borrow a teleportation circle
to flood a basement, which would and the way we would do it would have ended up flooding the city.
Yeah, you wanted to put this teleportation at the bottom of like a big river or like an ocean.
And one of my questions was, how much bone dust do we need to grind in order to turn that water into gelatin?
Yes. And you asked people that you knew were like because we were trying to figure out like based off the size of a teleportation circle, the pressure of how deep it was, how much water would actually come. It was like a whole thing.
Yeah.
We're like, it's so fucking silly. It's such a stupid thing. Only made manifest by it being magic. And also like, this is off the back of my characters, my players, you guys, also wanting to spend months or weeks in a city consecutively gueshing citizens of that city.
It was 364 days, thank you.
Sorry, a year.
Just under a year.
Yeah, a year of just gueshing random citizens so that you have this like army of like people to cause like a catastrophic event in the city to just get your way.
Yeah. Well, I'll point out like there's also just things in there where like in a serious campaign you couldn't necessarily get away with to the same degree. As an example, my character had disguise kits, which is basically just a fucking glorified makeup.
Hold up. Can I add something to the last bit there?
Sure.
Yeah.
It was to get our way, and we got to emphasize what our way was. It was for a group of criminals to hand over a noble who we fucked over.
Yeah. No, actually, I think the whole Gesh plan was after we succeeded. I think we just wanted to flatten that city.
No. That came before.
Yeah.
Because when we were going to act it out, the very next session was, here he is.
No.
Yes.
No. Because what we were going to do the next session was a series of attacks. We were going to blow up 2 different bars, and then we were going to let zombies loose on the city.
We haven't even got to the zombie part yet, though. That was the thing.
You
No, we
guys-
didn't get to any of it.
You
Yeah,
guys had already
we
started.
had
attacking the
already
city.
paid somebody to go find corpses for us to raise
We
the dead.
did already pay
Yeah.
someone to
'Cause-
go
'cause
find
you-
corpses for us.
You guys already did some of the attacks because you were stirring up problems. Because the
Yeah.
main, so the group that you were having a tiff with,
Yeah.
there was a much bigger crime syndicate
Yeah.
who was essentially like working with the city, who was like, we can't have this. You're causing problems.
Oh, we were going to cause so much worse
Yeah, like-
problems, too.
like-
we assassinated a guy in the street, and
Yes.
then we raised the dead, and Lucky put a note on him, a note that makes no fucking sense at
Yes.
all,
Who
which
cares?
was hilarious.
Yeah, that's even
and
better.
had the body go play around in the fountain.
Yes.
Like we were doing so much.
And the moment we
silly
saw
shit.
that he could do that,
We
we,
didn't
paid
even-
someone to go get a cart full
Yes.
of bodies.
we didn't even hit the climax of our silly.
Oh, it was gonna be so good. It was gonna be so good. Yeah, because like all of our plans had no indication of what our goals were. So we were I was gonna guess we were gonna have a contraption built, like a bomb, where it looks like a box or whatever, a delivery, and when it's opened, it explodes. And we're going to pay a lot of money for it to be a big explosion. And then we're going to guess someone to deliver it, which they could do because they didn't intentionally or knowingly put themselves in danger, to the bar. We weren't going to let them know why we did it, though. We were just going to blow up this bar. Then we were going to have a cart full of zombies show up at a different bar, all of them with a note pinned to them that indicates the guild that we're upset with. Senselessly, it's obviously not even true, but it doesn't matter. This person's name is in their mouths now.
Yeah.
And we're just gonna release a shit ton of zombies outside of this bar, and then leave. We weren't even gonna stay and watch.
Yeah.
We were just gonna leave. We had another explosion plan. We were just gonna do these 3 different attacks with no indication of what we want, and then just walk by one day to one of the guild houses or whatever and just drop a note being like, all we want is this guy.
Yeah.
We're just going to keep doing these patternless attacks and disappearing from the scene until you just give us this guy. That's all we want. He's not even that important.
You guys really were like a pretty big source of evil.
We were absolutely the villains in this world.
Yeah.
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 And we looked to become worse and worse.
Oh, yeah. So the Gesh plan was we were going to Gesh people for 364 days so that we had the largest amount of people Gesh.
Yes.
And then part of that plan was, as people started falling off, while they were Geshed, we were going to give them a life, give them a place to be, give them a career, so that when their Gesh rolled off, it's like, hey, you can leave. It's okay if you want to leave. Or you can stay and work for us, where we have uplifted your household multiple generations of wealth we've put into your household, where you could just continue working and have a infinitely better life that you never could have in multiple generations achieved for your family. But or you can leave. You can leave if you want to leave.
And the reason why you had that, you guys were going on that plan, was a bunch of land had become available.
Yeah.
Because you guys killed
On accident.
a hag.
Well, we killed the hag on purpose. We thought we were saving the day.
Yeah, you killed a hag in particular that like I forgot what the story was, like a generational thing where the hag was asking for sacrifices from the city
Mm-hmm.
or for whatever from this village.
Mhm.
You went to go be the heroes.
Yeah.
Killed the hag. The hag had a fae whatever boyfriend, caused the whole crazy mess. This essentially kickstarted the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Of this particular world.
Doesn't bother us.
Yeah. But because this crazy thing happened in this village, it and the surrounding area essentially became clear because a crazy thing happened over there. I think it was like a fire or something. I don't remember what happened. But crazy thing happened. You're like, oh, there's a bunch of empty space here. Let's take it over. We can make a village. This is where
we
we're
also
gonna
set that forest ablaze.
That's what it was. Yes,
And then-
you guys set the forest ablaze.
And then that Fey dude came and
yeah,
he wreaked his havoc, and we killed him for it.
Yes.
Because what is he doing? Undoing the good we done
Yeah.
evilly.
Yeah.
The good evil we've done.
Yes.
It was a very fun campaign.
That was very, yeah. It was,
I definitely much more enjoy serious campaigns, but I had a great time.
yeah. And also, like, it being your, especially you, Sav, being your first
Yeah.
foray into, like, D&D or whatever, I think people, at least this is my preconception, is I think a lot of people who think about D&D and think about, like, fantasy, think about TTRPGs, I think they lean more to the fun, silly stuff. Because I think
most people do. I actually have a little bit of troubles finding players that fit my DM style, because the majority of players that I run across are ones that are like, oh, just, we want magic items and we want 10-foot poles that we can use to,
because I think the
do silly
general,
things.
like, media that gets put out there in terms of what a lot of people attach to,
Especially like shorts.
especially shorter form content, is a lot more of that, like, oh, silly fun, this is crazy, shit is happening, and it's like, so I think a lot of people who are initially interested play the game that way. I think as you get more involved in the game and as you play more games, at least in my own opinion and my own experience, is you start to kind of appreciate and want a little bit more of that, like, seriousness. You're not necessarily looking for the silly fun stuff. You want something that's like a little more like, oh, I actually want to tell like a really cool narrative, like a really interesting narrative. That
I generally don't overthink the narratives, but yeah, collaboratively, that's what I'm looking for, is to collaboratively tell a really cool, serious, interesting narrative with a lot of emotional things tacked onto it. I very much enjoy dramas.
Granted, I do love the place that silly fun has. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Like, if Ace were to run a game, and Ace is our benchmark,
I wouldn't even ask. I would just write a silly character.
Yeah. Ace is our benchmark for, like, oh, he's just a DM that he has played for a long time. He has had interest in D&D for a long time, and his base zone is just silly, fun, goofy shit. And like, if Ace is like, hey, I want to run a game next weekend, it's like, oh, it's gonna be crazy. There's gonna be weird stuff happening.
Also, epic crazy.
Yeah, epic crazy. Yeah.
To share on his behalf, epic crazy.
Oh,
generally,
I'm pretty sure I've said this before. One of my most fun examples that I at one point in my life I do want to animate is one of our friends on top of a cliff with a cannonball, shooting the cannons at ships. Just said, "Oh, can I get into the cannon and fire myself at one of these ships because I want to board a ship?"
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, all thumbs up. Everything was fine. And like
rolled well enough
where he shot and landed on the ship. Or like hit the sail.
Successfully shot himself out of a cannon 1,000 feet, landed on the ship, ready to go.
And just like barely injured and just started fighting.
Yeah, like relatively no fault. I would have given like tenfold fall damage in a serious campaign. Yeah. Like, oh, don't worry. Oh no, not that bad. I missed a ship. And it's like, yeah, but when you hit the water, it's like landing on concrete. You're dead.
Oh, in my mind, if somebody was to put a full charge of like what fires a cannonball in like this was a serious game.
Yeah, you're dead before you leave the cannon.
You're like, guess what? The cannon fires and red mist comes out of the front of this cannon. It's just there's just pieces of
that would be the most wonderful way to kill a PC.
And it's just like, yeah, dude, what did you expect to happen?
There's one part of the Silly Goofy Fun Time campaign that I am currently running that I struggle with, and I realize I struggle with it in a lot of my campaigns. Loot. I generally don't write like a Cyclops or Dragon's loot type scenarios. So there's generally no like big loot scenario in my games. Obviously, loot the corpse of a guy that you kill, whatever. But there's no like loot sections of my games. And then like my players just never look for magical items. And then like, but I feel like specifically for my Silly Goofy Fun Times game that I'm currently running, there's emptiness, a need for magical items that I just don't provide because they don't look for it at all.
Mm.
But like, it needs to be there somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I honestly, I don't know how to accomplish it in a game where they're not going on like dungeon crawls or anything like that.
Yeah.
like,
I mean,
where the loot comes in, but they need it. They need it to perpetuate the goofiness.
in the Lord's Fall, the one I was writing with you guys, I put a lot of, because I personally do like that. You guys didn't explore it too much.
Yeah, we're not big dungeon people.
Yeah. So I wrote like an abandoned, one of them that I really wanted you guys to interact with it was like an abandoned church or something like that. And it had like levels to it. And inside one of the rooms of this place was a sentient like ring. It was a sentient object. And it was based off of, it was like Romanian folklore or something. Kokesh or something. Whatever. I can't remember the name. But it was like something that like essentially wanted to steal your body if your body was good enough. But for the most part, because it's just trying to find that stuff out, if you were to put it on, if you were to wear it, it would just be sentient and it would try to help you. So like it's depending on the situation you were in, it would like help protect you. It would help you attack. It would be a benefit up until the point that your character became strong enough. And then it would just take your body. I was like, but it was gonna be like this fun, like a silly thing where like you have this sentient object that is like talking to you every once in a while. That is just like a part of the crew now. But like you guys just never like saw it. You guys never did anything to like approach it.
I remember we had created a concept for a magical item together. At one point, it never made it in any games, where it was going to be like some magical item that was like powerful. And then as a real feat for the DM, it was powerful and it was like almost like an insta-win type powerful item. And then it would somehow be leading you as you are continuing to just, success, another success. And you're just getting all these good feels without realizing that the item itself is leading you to its master. And then when you get to the master, it just like, whoop, it just slips off of your finger or whatever. And then goes to the master and it's like, cool, now you're really underpowered for where you currently stand. Thanks for getting me home.
And speaking of like you, Gray, not liking fun, not liking silliness, and not liking goofiness, just as your baseline.
Wild accusations.
Yeah, domain observers.
Oh, it's the silliest, goofiest, alternate to Realm Watchers, which is supposed to be the most serious.
Yes, very serious Realm Watchers.
Very serious. During one game in Realm Watchers, I introduced a small guild of non-human humanoid creatures. I just refer to them as monstrous humanoids. And they're Realm Watchers. They're there to protect everything, but they're on their own, and they're low tech and kind of dumb. And it was just a funny thing to put in a game. And these guys here came across them. And I'm like, you know what? Domain observers, one shot.
Oh yeah, it was one of the things.
Well, we love the interaction so much. We're like, can we please play it?
Yeah, yeah. They came. The face of the party is a really dumb two-headed ogre, based off a Dota character, and they just loved everything about these guys. So I'm like, yeah, I'll make a thing.
I mean, part of it is like Realm Watchers in and of itself was like a semi-serious campaign.
Yeah, I would just call it a serious campaign.
Yeah, I mean, there are aspects of it that were like, at least in my mind, where it could lean to a little bit more fun and a little bit more, because it was essentially a series of one-shots, and their one-shot determined.
At times, I feel like the majority were relatively serious.
Yeah, relatively serious. But this was the introduction of, at least it was an introduction to me, of Gray's kobold voices, which is inspired by.
Oh yeah, that's where Blacktail came from in that game.
Koibu? What is it?
Koibu is the DM that inspired me to speak the kobold way.
Yeah, that is the silliest aspect of Realm Watchers, because just the voice, the character, the oh god, the all that like raspy, like
High pitch rasp.
high pitch, raspy, dumb, but also like the humoristic takes. I still remember the one specifically where like the kobold, you did the voice separation of like the one serious voice. Yeah.
Oh,
Our last
fuck.
Domain Observers.
That was
one.
Domain Observers when we
that
actually
was
played
in Domain
it.
Observers,
Yeah.
where it's just like, oh my god, like it's just something like one character who is not a kobold saw this character as the kobold, and then the other kobold saw this character as this like
It was. I think you were all kobolds.
yes,
So it was the smart kobolds saw him as a regular kobold.
Yes.
So they heard this voice.
yeah.
They heard the dumb kobold voice, and then the dumb kobolds heard this really cool talking sort of
Yeah.
British opera guy. And
It
and
was-
so
It's so fucking silly, but it's so good. In the moment, as soon as you executed it, I was
Well, yeah,
like,
because
oh
we were
God.
sitting in a circle at the table, and depending on who he looked at is what voice
Yes.
that he was doing.
and it was a perfect setup too, because everyone decided to sit
Yes.
one after the other.
yeah. It was so fucking funny.
Oh, dude. Again,
My
it's-
character was not a kobold. All right, it was much more serious than that. An
Oh, yeah, you were-
alchemist made.
No, that was a different one. You were
gorilla.
playing a boar kobold during that game.
Oh, it was the boar kobold one.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, we played it twice. I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
we did two
we
Domain
did two
Observers.
games.
I
yeah.
forgot about that. Yeah. It was a boar kobold, and it was, very dumb. Very dumb. It definitely got the Captain Price voice.
hmm
Oh God. I mean, it's when you lean into the silly stuff, like you get really like that. It's so memorable. It's so like,
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely think that Silly Goofy Fun Times has its place.
and it's also like the I still one of my most ridiculous memories was an Ace game where like we were just kind of bored and like not bored but like just like, oh, our characters are just gonna figure like we're trying to figure out what to do in this starter scenario, and I was like, oh, I have a fucking stick with string, I'm gonna go fish. Why not? I think we're still, at least me, I'm still relatively new to D&D in general, or TTRPGs in general. I was like, oh, I'm going to go fish. Oh, you fish. I rolled a fucking nat 20. Oh, what, like, oh, you feel something tugging. It's pretty heavy. And I go, all right, this is cool. I really get a really good fish. I'm going to get like a nice fucking bass or trout out of this fucking thing. It's awesome. You yank on the stick and a fucking treasure chest comes out. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, yeah, you open up the treasure chest. Yeah, there's a bag of holding in there. Why the fuck? This is a random river. And Nat 20 gives me a fucking bag of holding? Like, what the fuck is this? But, like, it was fun. It was crazy, ridiculous.
I think my favorite thing from that campaign was the bear trap.
What was the bear trap?
It was you stepped on a trap and a trap door opened up and it dropped the bear. But the bear has been there forever, so it was just dead.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, God, I forgot about that.
I remember we were playing through, this wasn't even a Silly Goofy Fun Times thing, but we were playing through Dungeon Crawl Classic. I guess it was pretty silly goofy, actually.
Yeah, Dungeon Crawl
Never
Classic
mind. But there was like a creature that was like frozen or whatever, and we didn't know what it was. And then we just stabbed it a bunch of times, and there was no reaction. We're like, huh, shrug our shoulders, and then move on. And then later it turned out to be like the last big bad, and then it like got unfrozen or whatever in front of us, and then just immediately died from all of the
Yes.
stab wounds that we put into it for no reason.
It was part of like the setup for because it was an adventure module where it's like, oh, this thing is frozen in time. It's because you're like whatever, some magical field. And like it specifically calls out if the characters decide to do damage to the frozen thing, this locked in time thing, that all counts as damage. Please keep track of that. Keep track of that information. I was like, all right, cool. And one of you decided to like start hitting it, and then the rest of you just like went to town
Just
on
stabbing
this
this nothing
thing. And
statue
you're just
thing.
like, all right, cool. Well, let's move on. And part of this whole thing is like a later point, the technology fails. And the time trap gets released. And you guys just like return to this spot as this like bloody creature is just like on the floor dead. It's like, yeah, you guys spent like half an hour stabbing the shit out of this thing. It's like, yeah, man.
As we were meant to, apparently. Not going to get anything past us.
I love that. I really did like that adventure module that you guys played.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Really liked the first one too. And speaking like out of the silliness of it, it was I tried running you guys through the initial beginning point of Dungeon Crawl Classic.
Yeah.
All of you get sub-zero level character or level 0 characters.
Mm-hmm.
And you got like 4 or 5 of them.
Yep.
The goal of it is, at least with Dungeon Crawl Classics, is you try to do this initial dungeon, and you hopefully have one of them survive.
Yeah, meat grinder to get your character for what would be a campaign.
A character to then run a campaign with. We did the game, and for the most part, you guys did all right. But if it wasn't for the fact that Gray was just like, oh, this is a dungeon. You get to the end of the dungeon, and Gray just sped run. Getting to the end of the dungeon without like anything else being solved. And as soon as you got to the end of it, I was just reading this adventure module going like, how else do you solve this? Like what happens when your character does this? And it's like, oh, everyone's just dead.
Yeah.
You've caused
we awoke an army that there was no way our level nothing characters could ever anything about.
It was also like the way to solve the problem was something the other players were already doing.
Yeah.
Which was like, there was this like pool above this army.
Yeah.
This like clay army where the characters were trying to steal diamonds from or something. People were already doing that as Gray was just continuing to just run to the end of the dungeon.
Yeah.
All they needed to do was just spend a little more time where the characters continued to steal these diamonds.
Mm-hmm.
But just, not enough time. It was
so funny when we realized we were doomed.
Yeah.
And you told us we were doomed. We played it out anyways.
Yeah.
We were doomed, it turns out. And then at the end, you were like, by the way, there are statistics, and the reason why we played this adventure first is because 98% of people succeed. So, yeah, we're in the top
98th percentile.
Top percentile, baby. Absolutely wonderful.
It was great. I mean, also, like, when we think about this, or at least when I think about this topic, it's also like it's one, having fun with the voices, having fun with the characters. So I always think about the Twisted Metal game that you ran, because we all were allowed to be silly. And it's also, again...
Oh, it was literally meant to be silly.
Yeah, this episode apparently has a huge section of just jerking off Gray, because Gray's voice...
Yeah.
I fucking loved it.
It was a great... Well, also, he sent it to me, so I, as not a wrestling fan, had to look it up and then do my best to master it, because it's Twisted Metal. And you were a acolyte of Savage. Macho Man, and your wish was to bring Savage back from the dead, and then in the end, as a Twisted Metal game would have, all of the wishes were monkey pawed. I had you guys send me wishes beforehand. You read your wishes in the beginning. You did the vehicle style combat, and then in the end, we went through. We had enough time, so we just did all of the wishes just for funsies. We did the winner first.
Yeah.
But then in the end, Macho Man came back, and then I don't know, you basically called you a
pretty
fool.
much called my character a bitch.
He pretty much called your character a bitch.
Like you should be Macho Man.
Yeah.
Why are you calling me?
You're not the real Macho Man.
Yeah.
Why you bring me back from the dead? Blah blah blah. And then I forget what his signature move was, but he signature moved you and then killed you. But I had to, knowing what you were bringing to the table, I also had to get a good grasp of the Macho Man's voice so that I could play the actual undead Macho Man Randy Savage. It was so unbelievably fun.
I loved it.
It was great.
Yeah, so I'm sitting there in the middle of the night, everyone's sleeping, and I'm doing my Macho Man voice.
I was doing the exact same thing.
Oh god, I remember as soon as you busted it out, I was like, "Oh my god,
it was so good." Well, also, this was during COVID, so we were all headphoned up, looking at the game screen, and then all of a sudden, in all of our ear holes, it's just the Macho Man. Acolyte of Savage.
Kool-Aid is savage.
You fucking sent it. You sent it. It was so good.
It was
Hey,
good.
man.
I wish I remember the opening. I'd recite it right
Oh
now.
yeah, you had a whole thing. You had
Mhm.
like bits and you had like lines.
Mhm.
Oh, I
man.
could send that to you. I
Yeah.
have that.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude, it was
Let's
so
do it at
good.
the post game.
Because it was that one and also the another one of your games, the Fury Road one.
Yeah,
Well,
the Mad Max one.
I had chosen a character who'd like got buffed by fire.
Yeah. So being on fire
Fire.
was a net benefit for your character.
So I was like, was the knife fight while I was on fire, or was the knife fight different?
I think the knife fight was just a separate thing. It was long. We
Oh,
played
yeah.
3 sessions of a single caravan
Yeah.
fight. But yeah, at one point we did end the session with your character in normal combat deciding to leave normal combat and just grab wrists with your
Yes.
combatant, and both of you had knives and do like Michael Jackson from
Yeah.
Beat It style knife fighting.
Yeah, I think I set myself on fire to jump into another vehicle.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's how you got rid of the gimps. I think you killed off the gimps by setting
Yes.
yourself on fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was random encounter. I had a whole sheet of random encounters, and one of them was there was a crate, a very small crate, in like a clown car, because I happened to roll for it. When you got near it or within range of it, just 1 HP, full gimp suit, 10 gimps just start like spider climbing out of this crate as they just, that's where they're stored. That's where you
Right.
store gimps.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just started leaping onto other people's cars and they started fighting you. So you lit yourself on fire to get your buffs.
Oh, of course.
By the way, you were all just people.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah.
I was praying to a god.
There
that
was
you had
there was
established.
there was like, yeah, yours was like the sun god or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were gods that gave you minor buffs, and yours was the sun god. So lighting yourself on fire somehow gave you buffs, even though
Yeah.
you were just a person.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was wonderful.
Yeah, those are great. I love those. I mean, again, it was COVID. It was also like all one shots were like
We played a lot of one shots during
Yeah.
COVID. A lot of one shots during COVID.
yeah, and it was like again, like Gray said, like one shots and like we said earlier, like one shots lend. They tend
Very easily lend to silly, goofy
to
fun
like
times.
just like yeah, have fun with it, not being too concerned. One, because you don't really care about your character in terms of long term, so you're a little bit more willing to like, yeah, whatever happens, like kind of like let's just go, like go fucking go full throttle with the character and just
Yeah.
see what happens.
Absolutely. Good times.
Good, fun, silly, goofy times.
I think that's enough of a palate cleanser for me. I'm going to be serious and dramatic for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Anyways,
You guys got any more? Anything else in the tank?
I'm satisfied.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening to Take the Damage podcast by Unfortunate Ones. Once again, I am Sav.
I am Nix.
Yeah, I'm Graythorn.
Did you forget who you were?
Yeah, a little bit.
You can find me over at startplaying.games if you would like me to GM for you. At the moment, I think I'm only running D&D 5e, but I will update in the future if I run other types of games. But more than welcome to seek me out there. My links will be in the description, as well as links to my website and whatnot. But yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm Nix again. I have a YouTube link in the description. I don't think I'm going to have anything else for a long time, but so far the YouTube, I have to update it somehow. I got to put more stuff on there. But there's old content on there if you want to watch it.
I'm Graythorn. I run a game every Friday, almost every Friday, in a very homebrewed system. You know, links will be in the description to see what I'm doing. It's great.
Maybe
It's
someday
awful.
you can buy that homebrew.
Yeah, maybe someday I'll finish writing that homebrew.
One day we'll get there.
One day.
But yeah, links for all of us in the description. And once again, you can find us on our website or on Patreon if you would like to become a member. and you can get some of our bonus content,
Yeah.
which is our pre and post show, where before and after we record these podcasts, we tend to sit around and bullshit about off-topic things and not TTRPG related things. Though often it's TTRPG related
today's
things.
pre-show was
Today was like 40 minutes of TTRPG shit.
also, so that I'll say it again, in order to make sure that we don't have broken links in our description, so you don't have to like copy and paste them, subscribe and like the video. You know, the YouTube has a bare minimum of the number of subscribers, and we cannot have broken links.
Yeah. Smash your head through your computer screen on the bell so that you get notified when we post garbage.
Want better links? Gilded.